Mute yourself.
I don't know. Did I do it?
Yep, you're
Can you hear
good,
me?
girl.
Okay, great. So I'm in Illinois, and Turk was saying that if you're in Illinois, you have to have a license to do the wholesaling.
Correct.
So is there any way to get around that, or is that just like cut and dry? You just have to have a license.
That's a rule, a law that got passed in the state of Illinois because a lot of realtors were upset because they don't think wholesaling's fair and this
Of
and that,
course.
all these things. So that's what happened. So the thing is, it doesn't take very long if you're committed to studying to get your real estate license. But one thing you can do as well is you can just link up. If you feel like you have some opportunities, what you can do is you can link up with a wholesaler in the meantime while you're getting your real estate license, and you can be what's called a finder. So you're just straight lead generation. You can find properties, leads to properties, or you could find buyers, and you're just going to pass them off to them. And then you're going to get paid not as a referral because you don't have a license or anything, but you're going to get paid for marketing, lead generation. That's all it is. And you can discuss a certain percentage of what you would want to get paid to hand deliver a lead that ends up doing business with them. So you're not discussing numbers with the leads. You're not negotiating with the leads. All you're doing is hand delivering the lead to the wholesaler. And in essence, you are just getting paid out for lead generation, and you can draw up what's called a finder agreement. You can have an attorney draw up a finder agreement that you can have between you and the wholesaler till you get your license.
Okay, and then the other question is, so if by chance a person cannot get into the 6-month thing right now, is this opportunity going to come around again? Like, will you guys be doing this again?
Yeah, it's not, we're not we're not like now or never type of thing. It just depends on kind of where we're at in the future. Right now, we've committed a lot of time to this. So yeah, if we're still committed the time, once we get through these students and stuff like that, then yeah, there's always an opportunity down the road. But if
I did fill out the application.
What's that?
I did fill out the application, but just in case.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be opportunities for everything down the road, but you definitely want to, that's good that you took action right now. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And then also, Karitha, you can also virtually wholesale. You can wholesale in other states.
Really?
Well, oh yeah. Because you can, I mean, what we teach people how to do deals from a desktop. I mean, that's when you get really good at real estate. You can do deals from a desktop, and you can do stuff like that. So you can virtually wholesale as well. I know Tarek buys houses wholesales all over the country, which is really, really cool. And then also too, guys, Tarek buys houses all over the country as well because he likes to hold them for cash flow. So our students have an opportunity. If they have a deal that they want to wholesale, they can bring that deal to Tarek buys houses, and they can wholesale that deal to him. And ultimately he becomes a cash buyer. But you're definitely going to want to posture him up and let him know, hey, I don't know if that price is good enough. I might go to someone else. What can you do? Right? You're still going to want to find yourself that best deal.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Tanya, you got a question? Tanya Ryder, can you unmute yourself? You should be able to unmute yourself. Let me ask you to unmute just in case. All right, I just asked you to unmute. All right, no go there. Let's see, is there any other questions? I think that's it. Beth, did you have another question? You want to unmute yourself?
I have a question.
Okay.
I have an investor like this weekend who's looking for like $2.4 million investment. He wants like a 6% rate of return. Am I able to find out, is that like a cap rate, or can I tell him?
You're saying he has $2.5 million that he's willing to lend out, and he's looking for a 6% return?
Yeah, he wants to buy an investment property, like a flip, up to 2.4 million. But he wants me to guarantee, or not guarantee, but look for a property that would give him a 6% rate of return.
So you're saying that he wants to actually operate it and execute it himself, or he just wants to be passive and lend on it and get 6% on his money?
He wants to complete the transaction through, well, I'm an agent, so he wants to
Okay.
he wants me to find the property.
Okay, so he wants to be an operator. So basically what he's saying is for his buy box, he has to be able to make 6% of the money invested in order for it to work for him. So that's just basically what we would call a cash on cash return. So it's pretty simple. You would just basically, if you just do the averages, 2.4 million times 10% would be 140,000. 5% would be 120,000. So he's willing to invest, 2.4 million to make 130 grand. I personally would never do that, right? It's such a low return based on all the things that could happen. And then the return just keeps dropping because that's what it looks like on paper. He might end up only making 60 grand. People go, that's great, I'll make 60 grand. Well, not on that amount of money. You don't want to take that amount of risk on that low return. But yeah, if he's just looking for a 6% return, that would mean a cash on cash return if it's a flip. Cap rates are for commercial. That's what we're using cap rates when we're looking at commercial. This would just be like a cash on cash return. So he invests 2.4 million and he would need like a minimum of 140,000 back plus the 2.4 million once he was done.
See, my mentor told me cap rate, so there you go.
Yeah, I would personally on 2.4 million, I would, depending on the level of project, I personally would have to see a $250,000 minimum profit in order for me to do that deal because of all the factors and everything. You have to structure it properly. And that's if it's cosmetic. If it's not cosmetic, the return has to be higher.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Gilbert Ducey, you got a question?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Sorry to take that off. Hey, so I'm over here in Maine. So my question is regarding, as far as tax lien properties, there are several that are even in my town and several that are around that, they not only do auctions, but they also, you can go to your town office and you can get a kind of a price as far as what they're looking for on back taxes and stuff like that. Is there any danger in dealing with any of those? That would be the first question. I have another one after that.
You're saying in buying tax liens, is there danger?
Yeah, correct. Is there any danger in that? Because I mean, according to what they're saying, I bought the house that I'm currently living in it was on a tax lien foreclosure that they did. And I was able to get it, and all they just did a quick claim deed back to me. So my question is, when it goes to somebody else's property that maybe they just haven't paid anything, is there anything that could hinder me from not actually getting that property? Or once it's in foreclosure, that's it? I'm just curious about that.
Well, it just depends because like tax liens are, that's just one acquisition strategy, but a lot of cases people are doing it for more of passive income because you're basically paying off that tax lien and then that seller has a certain amount of time to pay you back, right? And then if they don't pay you back, you can take the property as a tax foreclosure if they're not laid on anything else. So there's always risk in everything, but you just have to learn the contracts and be able to structure it properly to minimize risk. And then you just want to structure it based on your risk. So as an investor and as someone who increases their financial IQ through financial education, really, you want to get really good at underwriting and analyzing risk. That's what we do. We underwrite and we analyze risk, and certain deals are going to be riskier than other deals. That doesn't mean we don't do it. It just means we have to structure it differently to make up for that risk. And the profit margins have to be different as well.
Okay. Is that something that would you be going over on any of that as far as, taking the course? Because the other part of the question was, I'm interested in doing it and signing up for it, but I don't have a big stretch of 20 right off the bat. So I'm just trying to figure out, how I would be able to, potentially pay for the 6-month course that you guys are going to be offering. So I'm just wondering what the options are there.
Yeah. So did you fill an application?
I have not done it yet because I wanted to make sure I asked this question before.
Yeah, just fill out the application, and then one of our team members will talk to you and they can learn more about your situation. And if the only holdup is finances, they can show you creative financing. That's basically welcome to real estate. It's great practice. It's what we do every day. And they can show you creative ways that people have financed it in the past, and it may or may not work for you, but either way, it'll be a good educational experience to learn just some more creative financing type scenarios. So I would say just fill it out and let's take it from there.
Sounds good. All right. Shoot, I think I had one more. I don't know if I get it, I'll come back on the next one. Yeah, is this like the last Q&A or is it going to be one more?
No, we'll do a little more at the end.
Okay, very good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, let's do, let's see here, a couple more. Jarrell, can you unmute yourself? You're unmuted, but I can't hear you.
A second.
Oh, there you go.
You said which one?
The gold pack, 5 milligram.
Right here, 2-pack?
4-pack if you got it.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, Raga, let's go on to the next one. I'm sorry, I just muted him.
Okay. Rick.
Hey, how you doing, right guy and Josh?
What's
Rick.
up?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, my camera's not working. Sorry. Yeah, I'm from New York, the Bronx. Get a quick question. I got 2 4-family buildings. Is it wise for me to sell one of them with a $400,000 profit after paying the mortgage off to start flips, or take the other route, save this for later on future money after I retire, and then start flips with like other people's money?
So I never tell anyone what to do with their money because that's financial advice. But what I will say is it just comes down to your goals, brother. Like what are your big picture ultimate goals? For most people, they want to increase their passive income, their monthly income, because that creates financial peace. Does that building that you could walk with 400, does it cash flow?
One of them does, one of them don't. Because
Okay.
one of them are halfway paid off and one of them I still have 25 years to go on the mortgage.
And it's not cash flowing and it's a 4-unit?
Yeah.
So I'm not telling you what to do, but me personally, I'd get out of that because you have to look at every address as a business, and you would never want to buy a business that doesn't pay you from day one, right? You would never want to buy a business that you say, hey, it might pay me in 10 years, but for now you're going to lose money every month. It's the quickest way to put yourself out of business. So me personally, I have to get paid. If I'm holding something long-term, it has to pay me every month. If not, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm not making no money every month.
Also, yeah. So also you can get a HELOC, a home equity line of credit on rental properties. And that can be a credit line that can be used to flip houses. When the deal presents itself, then you use the flip to pay back the credit line and you still own the property and have the cash flow.
Okay, I understand. Thank you, man.
All right, guys. So I see a couple more questions, but we'll answer them at the end. Katrina, Daniel, Taylor, we will answer those questions at the end. So hold on to those questions. We are going to dive into some repeatable fix and flip strategies. Again, guys, we've been talking about this all day. I just want to remind you one last time because we get into actual strategies. These are just strategies, right? We're not telling you this is exactly how you should do it. Some of these strategies may not apply to your personal situation. And we would never tell anyone that you're guaranteed to be successful in real estate because you will always be the X factor. However, what we want to figure out is how do we become a systems master, right? That's the whole idea, systems master, because your fix and flip company is basically a series of systems. That's what it is. It's a series of systems that work in unison together to create an assembly line process in essence. So what you want to start thinking about is, how do I take the McDonald's concept and apply it to a real estate transaction? That way I can do it with speed, and I can increase probability for success, right? It's an assembly line concept. The reason I say McDonald's is because McDonald's was the first fast food company. Back in the day, they took a 45-minute process and they shrunk it down to a 3-minute process through something called the Speedy Burger system. And what they did was they took a concept that was only used in factories at the time, assembly line, and they applied it to a restaurant. So one person stood in one spot and all they did was the same thing all day, and vice versa. And they just passed the baton. It's the same thing with rehabbing. You want to start thinking about, how can I create an assembly line process that in essence builds me out of the transaction? I don't want to build myself in. I want to build myself out of that transaction so that the transaction doesn't own me, so that my real estate company doesn't own me. I own it, and I have time freedom to do what I want when I want, and the transactions happen whether I'm there or not. That's the whole key. But the key word is systems. Watch this. Save yourself time, energy, money, stress. Systems. Save yourself time, energy, money, and stress. So what we want to start thinking about right off the bat is marketing systems, right? We want to start thinking about marketing systems that can start generating leads consistently. And ultimately, we're going to see all different types of leads that can drop in someone's lap, right? Like, for example, here's an example of a small little property. It's 800 square feet. It doesn't need a lot of work. There's not a lot of square footage, but in a lot of cases, I have the ability to make a 20 to 30K profit. That same marketing system is going to drop houses like this in my lap. Larger square footage, bigger rehab project, costs more to get it done, takes longer to exit, but the profits can be larger as well. And that same marketing system can drop houses like this in my lap, 6-figure rehabs. But if I know what I'm doing, there's opportunities occasionally where a 6-figure rehab could in essence produce a 6-figure profit, right? So as I start marketing, what's going to happen is it's just going to be dropping off all different types of leads. And then of course, I can even get into the luxury market, right? So this is a house. I know it doesn't look very luxury, but it's in the city of San Francisco. So it's surrounded by luxury properties. So when you look at this right here, this property, we were able to acquire this property and convert it into this. Right? So the marketing systems are going to drop all different types of leads in your lap, right? We're able to ultimately use these views and create an unbelievable opportunity. So these marketing systems are going to drop all different lead types in your lap. Now, here's what I want to tell you. In this business, construction is so important, guys. Construction knowledge. It's very, very important. And a lot of times people say, right, guy, Josh, I don't need to learn construction because I don't want to fix and flip properties. All I want to do is wholesale or buy and hold. I don't want to actually flip properties. Well, here's the thing. In order for you to figure out what type of wholesale profit you can make, you have to learn how to estimate repairs, right? You have to learn how to actually estimate repairs so that you know what the real numbers are, so that you know how much to charge, right? So like, for example, Ramon says, how do we gauge the assignment fee? Like, how do we know how much to charge on an assignment fee? Well, here's the deal. Don't walk yourself into a box and say, I'm only going to make this amount. What you want to do is you want to learn, what is your buyer's buy box? What is their criteria? Because like we heard earlier, if someone has an opportunity to work with a buyer that only wants a 6% return on their money, and I'm wholesaling them a deal, I'm going to basically make the assignment fee pretty much all the way up to where I can still deliver them a 6%. But if they want a 10%, then I got to make less. If they want, see what I'm saying? So I don't want to box myself in. I want to be able to analyze a deal like I'm doing it myself, know what the real numbers are, and then I'll be able to determine based on my cash buyers criteria, how much should I charge to hand deliver this to them and let them take over my buying position. And then of course, buying and holding. Here's the thing, guys. The thing about construction is the construction is how we add value. That's how we add value. So that means we're buying under market and we're using construction to force appreciation. We're adding value, which means we're adding equity. And the more equity I can add, the more money I can pull out when I'm done and have no money in the deal. So if you don't learn construction and you want to build out a rental portfolio, you're always going to be buying turnkey properties, which means someone else added value. So you're going to have to pay them for that. And you're not going to have really very much equity in those properties. I want to buy below market value, add the value through construction, add the tenant in there, then go to the bank, refinance out my hard money lenders and my private money lenders. And if I'm good at it, I can do it in a scenario I have no money in the deal. No money in the deal. How many of you like that idea? Give me a yes in the chat box if you like that idea, because that would be very, very powerful. One of our coaches, Bud, who, he does a lot of BERS, right? Where he's buying low, adding the value, putting a tenant, refinancing out. His latest property that he did, he bought the property using hard money, private money. He added the value. He put the tenant in. He went to the bank and refinanced the hard money and private money lenders out. And there was enough equity that he added. Not only was he able to pay off his lenders, but he was able to pull an extra $40,000 out of the house on the cash out refinance and still have $400 in cash flow per month. So now he has a property that he has no money in. He didn't put any money in the deal. He's cash flowing $400 a month and he has $40,000 sitting in his hand. Now, how much does he owe in taxes on that $40,000? Let me see in the chat box. How much does he owe in taxes on that $40,000? Exactly zero, because it's a loan that who pays back? Someone else, the tenant. See, that's the beauty of the art of borrowing in good debt. If we learn how to do this properly, I can borrow money that I don't even have to pay back. Someone else pays it back for me and I get paid every single month while someone else is paying it back. So now he has 40 grand that someone else pays back for him. And what did he do? He took the 40 grand and he went and bought 2 turnkey rentals and put 20 grand down payment on each one. So by buying low and using construction to add the value, he was able to turn that into 3 rental properties and he had zero money in the deal. How many of you just learned something right there? Give me a yes in the chat box. That is called BERR, right? Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. So this is why construction can be so powerful, guys. And ultimately, when it comes to fix and flipping, the profits are going to be larger than a lot of the other type of strategies that you're looking at. It's going to allow you to wholesale more effectively. Again, once you learn the construction side, you're going to be a better wholesaler because you're going to be able to track numbers and hand deliver accurate numbers to your cash buyers. And you're going to start, if you're buying low and adding value through construction, you're actually decreasing risk because you have a larger spread. So there's more room for error. And then of course you can move into larger developments. And one thing that I really like, guys, is that, man, we get to make a difference. We get to make a difference in people's lives. We get to employ so many different people on a real estate transaction. Think about how many people get paid on one transaction. You got realtors, brokers, lenders, appraisers, inspectors, contractors, escrow reps, title companies. I mean, there's a lot of people that you can keep busy and provide jobs to. And think about the difference you get to make in a neighborhood. because you're bringing up the value, right? See this, check out this property. This is a property that we purchased in the city of Sausalito, luxury area, first city on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge. And this property was just, it was very ugly, it was very distressed, and it was just dragging down the values in a multi-million-dollar neighborhood. And we acquired this property, we redeveloped it, and this is what we were able to do. So imagine going from here to here. Imagine what that does to the value of all the other houses, right? I mean, we bought this, guys. We bought this for 1.2 million. So that's dragging down the value. And we're currently in contract on this right now for 4.45. So that increases the value, right? So that's why it's so important, guys. That's why it's so important. So what does it take? What does it take to be successful in rehabbing? Well, real estate investing, business systems education. So I want to learn all the different investing strategies. I want to learn, construction. I want to learn management. I want to learn negotiation, and I want to learn business systems. I want to learn how to create scenarios that build myself out of the transaction. Okay. I want to have people I can lean on. I don't care how long you've been doing real estate and how many deals you do. The more deals you do, the more confident you're going to get. The more confident that you get, the more risk you're willing to take on. And the more risk you're willing to take on, the more nervous you'll get in certain scenarios. And just because you're nervous or you're fearful because you've never done that big of a project, you don't want to just walk from it because you don't know what to do. You want to have people you can lean on. And then you want to look at rehabbing. Everything should be done in a step-by-step process. Step-by-step process. You break everything down into steps and you just operate one step at a time. This is how you take the overwhelm out of a construction project. You use everything in steps. For example, a fix and flip checklist. This is every step from when your property gets accepted to signing the final lien waiver and giving the contractor the final check. Is the cost of construction high right now? Yes, it is. The cost of construction is extremely high right now. The cost of lumber is very, very high right now. Okay. Ezekiel, just hold your question. We'll get to that in a couple minutes. Okay. So let's look at this. I'm going to give you guys a macro overview of a repeatable fix and flip system. I'm going to give you a macro overview of what it would look like and what systems you're going to want to start thinking about focusing on. Okay, these are the different systems you're going to want to build out for yourself and start thinking about focusing on. Okay, so the first one is a construction IQ system. You want to start developing and increasing your construction intelligence, your construction IQ. Now, when I say construction IQ, construction intelligence, let me be clear about something. Okay. You don't have to know how to build a house. You don't have to be handy, okay, and know how to build a house to be good in construction. But there's 3 things that you want to become a master of in construction IQ. 3 things total. Write this down. You don't have to know how to build a house, but you want to know what are the steps to building a house. What are the exact steps? Because you don't want to do anything out of order. That's going to cost you time and money. Then the next thing you want to know is, what is the cost of each step on average? What are the steps to building a house? What is the cost of each step on average to building a house? And then, of course, how long should each step take? How long should each step take? Steps, cost, how long each step should take. Once I learn those 3 things, no one's going to be able to take advantage of me, even just from a standpoint of how long things should take, guys. Right? People take advantage of those scenarios all the time. So once I know step, cost, and how long each step should take, then from there, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to take that information out of my head, and I'm going to want to build out a construction cost estimate system. Construction cost estimate system. This is a system that should be based on averages. It's just an estimate. Might be a little high, might be a little low. It's not going to make or break the deal. It's going to allow you to make extremely quick offers on the spot confidently and lock properties up. Once your offer gets accepted, then you have an inspection period like Tark was talking about this morning, where you get to inspect the property. And if you decide you're not going to do the deal, you can cancel and back out of the deal, and you would not lose your good faith deposit or your earnest money deposit. Okay. So you want to build out a system. If you're not working with someone like us, you're going to want to build out a system like this that allows you to be able to do that. It's a checklist format. It's going to have all your numbers there, so you can walk a house in 20 to 25 minutes, make confident offers on the spot. Let me see in the chat box, why would this be important? What does this do for an investor if they have something like this? Let me see in the chat box. What does this do for an investor if they actually have something like this? Yes, less headache. They can see what the profit will be. ARV, they can get the deal done faster, gives you confidence. Yep, negotiate better pricing, better analyze, confidence, less time to make the deal. Yes, these are all great answers, guys. Now, think of this, instead of thinking from the bottom up, think of from the top down, a true entrepreneur that owns something, not something that owns them. Why would something like this be super powerful? As an entrepreneur from the top down, not looking at like a technician from the bottom up. Okay. The reason is because once I have a system like this, I can outsource it. I can teach anyone to go walk a house for me and check off what needs to be done and circle the numbers that I've already put there, move them over and add everything up and say, hey, this is the repair estimate, $75,246. So that means I'm not actually walking houses anymore at some point. I'm having my project manager, I'm having realtors, I'm having other people do this for me, and I can still get an accurate estimate of repairs because I've built out the system that way, and that frees up my time to do other things that are going to bring in more deals. Okay. But again, it's just an estimate. Might be a little high, might be a little low. Once your offer gets accepted, then you're going to build out a scope of work. Okay. The scope of work is where you go from the actual estimate to hard costs. Carbeth says, how do we find national averages? You can go to rsmeans.com. You should be able to find some national averages there. rsmeans.com. Let me put this in the chat box. rsmeans.com. Okay. Now the scope of work is where you go from an estimate to hard costs. Okay. Now let me just share with you. Here's what happens. Okay. Here's what happens. For most amateurs, this is how they build out a scope of work. They call a contractor and they ask them to go walk this house and let them know what needs to be done, how long it's going to take, and what it's going to cost. Okay, that's an amateur scenario. And ultimately, you're going to be working on the contractor's timeline, which means you're not going to be able to make quick decisions. What you want to do is learn how to build out your scope of work yourself, so that you can go to the contractor and say, Mr. or Miss Contractor, I've already built out the scope of work. I've already walked this house. I don't need you to go to the house. You can see here, here's every single line item of everything that we're going to be doing on this rehab project. Look, see this right here? Here's the SKU number of every piece of material next to each line item. Here's the quantity of the material. Here's how much it costs. All I need you to do is fill in next to each line item. What is your labor rate that you're going to charge me to install each one of these line items? Okay. Each one of these line items. And then ultimately you're just going to be getting labor bids. You're going to be getting labor bids from contractors. You don't want to have your contractors be interior designers and pick out your materials for you. They're going to try to charge you a spread, and it's going to take too long. What you want to do is you want to figure out a way that you're just getting labor bids, and ultimately you're picking out all of the materials. Okay. Nicole says, what if I need the contractor to help determine what can be done regarding permits, regulations, etc.? I mean, you can use them, but all you got to do is just go to your local, to the city or to the county, depending on where the property is, and they'll tell you exactly what can be done, what the zoning is, right? Ezekiel says, find a contractor and partner with them because there's a shortage of contractors, and the contractors that are there, they are too busy. Well, here's what I can tell you. The hardest ships to sail are a partnership. I personally would not partner with a contractor, and I'll tell you why. I don't have trouble finding contractors because I know how to find them. I know how to present to them, and I know how to show them that this is a huge opportunity to get moved from job to job with no gaps and get a guaranteed weekly paycheck. I have the ability to keep them busy. What I don't want to do is give someone half of my deal, give them equity and give them half of my deal just because I feel like there's a shortage or I have a challenge. What I want to do is I want to figure out how to overcome that challenge. Someone's getting these contractors. I want to figure out how to overcome that challenge, and I want to retain 100% of my equity of my deal, and I want to pay my contractor out through an actual job draw description. Okay. Ezekiel says, not a partner in business, but make a handshake deal again. So it depends on the area. Yeah, not a partner in business, but I don't want to make them a partner on the deal. I want to hire them as a vendor and pay them through a draw schedule. I don't want to give them a piece of my equity, but I'm not telling anyone what to do. You guys can do whatever you guys want. What about contingencies or hidden issues? Well, this is where you want to get good at this, but you also want to, in your inspection, you want to have home inspections. You want to have pest inspections. These are things that are going to show you things that maybe you didn't see your initial walkthrough, and you're always going to want to have a minimum of a 20% buffer on your rehab budget. So when you put your budget together, you're going to have a minimum of 20% buffer on top of it. If you're looking at a rehab that you think is going to be 100 grand, you should be negotiating that deal around it being 120 grand and give yourself that room for the buffer. Leave yourself nothing but upside instead of downside. Okay. Is it cheaper to hire a contractor for everything to repair, or each contractor separately, like floor and star? It depends. It depends, but it's not all about being cheaper. That's what you guys got to remember. Just because something's cheaper, it's also about time, and it's all going to come down to your level of management. Because in essence, if you're hiring different contractors, then you're acting as the general contractor. You're acting as the GC. So you have to make sure you understand schedules, and you're making sure that as this done, this person's coming in and it's not too late. If you're good at that and you have a good checklist to keep everyone going, then yeah, you can piecemeal it together. I would recommend, if you're brand new, try to find one contractor to do majority of everything, but then things like paint, things like flooring, things like tile, things like that, go get other bids against it. Because if that's not their specialty, if they're going to sub it out, then you might want to give yourself a shot to save money there. Okay. Now, once you have a good scope of work, you also got to have a really good contractor marketing, vetting, and hiring system. So here's what I can tell you guys. People say, oh, there's a shortage of contractors. Here's what you want to do. Straight up, go to Home Depot or Lowe's at 7 a.m., hang out in the parking lot, and watch all these contractors pull up and go into the store and just walk around the parking lot with your phone and take pictures of their trucks, with their information on it, their email, their phone number. I guarantee if you spend an hour in each parking lot, you'll get 50 plus numbers, names and numbers. And then what do? You start dialing for dollars. You start calling them, and you use something that we built out called a contractor audio business card. That's what it is. Contractor audio business card. Watch this. I'm at Lowe's. I take a picture of a truck. I get their phone number. I call them up with my phone and I say, ring, ring, ring. Hello, John. Hey, what's happening? You're a contractor, right? Yeah, I am. Hey, great. I saw your truck at Home Depot earlier today. And, I just wanted to give you a call. I don't have a lot of time right now, and I'm sure you're super busy as well. But I wanted to give you a call and introduce myself. I'm the owner of a residential redevelopment company, and we're growing really fast. In fact, one of our biggest challenges right now is we have too much work and not enough contractors. So we're currently looking for licensed and insured contractors that we can move from job to job with no gaps and give them a guaranteed paycheck. Is that something you'd be interested in learning more about? No. Great. Thanks for your time. Yes. Okay, great. Well, like I said, I don't have a lot of time right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and send you over a company bio. Now, this is a template that we've created just for contractors, guys. I'm going to send you a company bio. What it's going to do, it's going to break down who we are, what our business model is, why contractors absolutely love working with us. And it's also going to give you a sample scope of work that's going to be a very typical scope of work that you'd be operating off of if we decide to work together. And ultimately, if you like what you see and you want to know what the next step is, feel free to respond back to that email saying, what's the next step? And I'll set up a time that we can get on the phone and go through an interview and take it from there. Sound good? Yes. Bam. Then I'm going to send them this, what we call a contractor credibility template. And I'm just telling you right now, guys, contractors don't see this. They don't see these things. They don't see these templates. So when a lot of people say, hey, these contractors are too busy, they're not too busy to work with us because they've never seen anyone present themselves the way we have. And in their mind, they're going, this is a big opportunity. I can get moved from job to job and have no gaps and get guaranteed checks. That is very valuable for a contractor. So we have to be able to create that perception up front. And by doing that with the way that we interview and with our credibility templates, we're going to negotiate wholesale labor rates from day one, because we're not a retail customer that's going to hire them once and never see them again. We're going to move them from job to job and give them guaranteed checks because we are very good at marketing. And this is what we do. So then I'm going to go through an interview. I'm going to use my contractor interview script. I'm going to get references. I'm going to get 3 to 5 references. I'm going to use my contractor reference script. Then if those phone interviews are well, I'll meet the contractor in person at a job site. Then from there, I'll give them a sample scope of work to bid off to see what their numbers look like, unless I have a live project right there that I want to bid on. And then I'll take it from there. And ultimately, I'll make sure to sign all the important documents that need to be put in place prior to the job starting. Okay. Now, construction management. So again, you guys are going to want to make sure that you are using checklists. Checklists. You're going to want to, if you don't have them, build them out. You're going to want to manage through checklists. You're going to want to create what are called SOPs, standard operating procedures, and you're going to want to manage through checklists. And then as you start hiring, all you're going to do is train someone your SOPs and then hand them a checklist and say, now just follow this. And now you're just going to manage them managing the checklist. And that's why you want to make sure that everything in this process is repeatable. I can just keep doing it over and over and over again, right? Repeatable checklists. Look, checklists, rehab checklists, punch list checklists, HOA condo checklist, escrow checklist, due diligence checklist, deal analysis checklist, contractor marketing checklist, things like this. This is repeatable. This creates repeatable systems. Scripts. Here's our contractor interview guide. Scripts. You want to have scripts. Here's our raising private money script. Here's a script to talk to sellers, right? Credibility decks. Private money credibility deck. Here's an agent credibility deck. So this is something we built out that we give to real estate agents. Again, you're just going to put your logo right here. Talks about who we are, what your company goals are, what the mission statement is. And then see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the 5 benefits of working with us as a realtor, the type of sellers we can help, why sellers like working with us, deals we'll consider, our operating process. Let me see in the chat box, how many of you can see how these credibility templates would actually add credibility and make you look really professional? Even if you've never done a deal, that's what this is. You want to create the perception, hey, these guys are professional. I haven't really seen this before. And then what you're going to notice is all of a sudden there's not a shortage of vendors anymore because they're fighting to work with you. You're not fighting to work with them. It's all how you posture and frame it up front. You don't just dive right in. Just like I live on a farm, right? We grow a lot of food. You don't just grow food. You want to spend time fertilizing and tilling soil. That's what framing is. You're fertilizing, you're tilling soil, then you plant seeds, then you add sunlight and water. But because you spent the time up front fertilizing and tilling, you're going to get a way better harvest. It's the same thing with all of these relationships. You want to posture them up front so that they're fighting to work with you. You're not fighting to work with them. It's a completely different way to do business. Okay. How many of you that makes sense? Let me see. Give me a yes in the chat box if it makes sense to frame that way, to posture that way. So they're fighting to work with you, right? Contractor credibility deck. So this is what we would give to the contractor. Again, quick story of who we are, what we look for in contractors, our renovation approach. Here's the requirements, the top 5 reasons or 3 reasons that contractors love working with us. Again, contractor interview script, right? Deal analyzing tools, all of these things, this is what's going to create repeatable systems that's going to allow you to be able to do this process over and over and over again. That's what it is. You want to just be able to do this over and over and over again, my friends. So let's do this. If you have an unanswered question, go ahead and type question in the chat box. Josh, I think you're still on. If you want to dive in as well and help on some of these questions, cool. If not, no worries as well. Okay, so let's try this again. Adele.
Hey there. Okay, so I have like 2 wholesale questions. Wholesale, once you go into contract with the seller, and let's say you do make a successful wholesale to another seller, you never purchased anything. So is that money that you profited taxed?
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the IRS will ever give us a get out of jail free card?
No way.
Well, they will if I use a self-directed Roth 401k. So I have to know the IRS code handbook that's over 80,000 pages thick, but that's the only way that money wouldn't be taxed.
Okay.
But that would be considered ordinary income.
Okay, so it's just on top of it.
There are tax strategies that you can use to reduce your ordinary income. And that's something that we actually teach at a high level, because what people don't realize is you don't want to just learn how to make money. You want to learn how to keep as much of it as possible legally without just handing it over to the IRS, because they're not going to call you and be like, hey, you paid us too much. Let me send you some money back, right? But you also want to learn how to protect your money, because we live in a litigious society. So it's all about asset protection. protecting what you work so hard for. And then you also want to learn how to pass it down properly to your heirs without ever having to make any of your heirs go through probate. It's crazy how many people make their heirs go through probate. It's a painful, painful process that if I had an estate plan, a trust, which I can set up for a couple grand, we avoid all of that stuff. But yes, you will pay taxes on that money.
Okay, and then second question was, yeah, so if I were to like, start making a wholesale buyers list or get some buyers on my side and figure out their box and all that, and I did it like through Facebook, what's like, are they looking at me, or I feel like a buyer would be just like, sure, like let me know when you find a property, or are buyers selective of who they what list they go on?
Yeah, they're looking at the deal, Adele. It's going to come down to the numbers. I mean, if they hate you, maybe they'll refuse to do business with you, but it's not a personal thing. They're looking at the deal and the numbers. But in fact, that's why Ragai was just going over in the construction and rehab training. Even if you don't have plans initially to fix and flip that house, it's really good for you to understand construction, because you need to estimate those costs, because whoever you're wholesaling it to, they're going to flip it. So you want your numbers to be accurate and take that into consideration, so you know what numbers you have to pencil in at for it to make sense for them. But that being said, it's just going to come down to the numbers and what their buy box is. So, Ragai likes to talk about something called reverse wholesaling, where you go to the buyers first and figure out exactly what type of house they're looking for. Maybe they want to buy in a certain area. Maybe they're looking for a certain square footage or price point. Figure out what your buyers want and then deliver those deals on a golden platter, and they're going to take it if the numbers line up.
Awesome.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
good advice.
the only thing that like a cash buyer, someone like myself, would be concerned about is if you're, like Josh was talking about earlier, daisy chaining it. If you're not direct to seller and you're not in actual contract yourself, then in our opinion, we're like, well, that's a waste of time. You don't even have it under contract,
Yeah, that's a good point, right, guy? Like what a lot of people will do, specifically newbies, and it's not like a negative thing. They just don't know any better. They'll see somebody else who has a deal under contract. They'll get it emailed to them, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna go broker this deal. I'm gonna go make the intro," and then they'll start telling somebody else, "Hey, if I could get you this deal, would you want it?" Blah blah blah. Professionals, the first question they're gonna ask. It's the first question I ask. People send me deals all the time because they want Tarek to look at them. The very first question I ask is, "Do you have it under contract?" If they say no, and sometimes they'll say, "Yes, it is under contract," I'll say, "That's great. My question was, do you have it under contract?"
Right.
The answer is no. I don't even want to talk to them. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's not a rude thing, but they just have so little control over it because they don't have the deal yet.
Yeah. And then like with earnest money and option money, I should have asked my friend a little bit more details. I just didn't understand his response, but he said he gets his wholesale buyers to pay the earnest money, but then that would mean that they would have to do that in advance, because isn't the earnest money, that would be me getting the contract first. I pay it, or how do you do that?
That's interesting. I would say that if he's able to do that, then he must have really good relationships with them, and he's worked with them for a while, and they've worked it out in advance. Typically, you're responsible for the earnest money deposit, and we try to negotiate, a really low earnest money deposit, sometimes none, sometimes nothing. I would use a private money lender in the way that we described how to do it, or credit cards, before I would try to have the person I'm wholesaling it to cover the earnest money deposit. Did you have any different notes on that, Rye Guy?
I'm sorry, dude. I just got distracted because Maddie was sending me a text message. I didn't even hear what it was. Sorry, bro.
Oh, well, I answered the question. I feel confident about it. So
that makes sense
the
to
answer,
me.
Adele.
Yeah, I'll just cover it and then figure it out later.
Exactly. Yeah, because the one thing you do want to be careful of, and once you build relationships, I mean, you want to do business with people you trust. It's a small world. We're not in the business of burning bridges. We want good, strong, healthy relationships, because at the end of the day, people hear the word cash buyers list, and sometimes they think it's like thousands of people. You only need a few solid, reliable, trustworthy buyers that you can deal with, because let's just pretend, your average buyer can buy 3 deals a year. I mean, if you have 4 of them, that's 12 deals a year, right? Like, it could add up really quickly. You don't need tons. But my point in saying that is, before you build the relationships with them and before you have that trust in place, you want to lock up the property before you share the deal information with them, before you send them the address, before you show them anything. And the last thing I'll say, this is actually something we talk about this obviously deeper in our mentorship when we go over wholesaling. Last thing I'll say though is this, kind of the inverse of that. If you truly have a deal under contract and the person you're wholesaling the house to asks you for the address, send it to them. I laugh because how many times it's happened to me. Somebody will have a deal under contract. They'll want to see if I want to buy it. I'll say, hey, send me the address. And they'll be like, oh, well, I'm going to keep that private. I don't want you to go around me. Guys, there is no such thing. If you have it under contract, they can't get around you, A, and B, they have to have the address to be able to do their proper due diligence. You do not, however, need to provide them with the contact information. That's irrelevant to them, and you don't want them calling the seller and causing confusion. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you. That was all very informational. Appreciate it.
Okay, great. No worries, Adele. I'll go to your restaurant one day and you'll own the real estate that you build the restaurant on.
Bring me on me.
Ezekiel, what's your question?
Yeah. So I was going to ask about the balance between for construction between paying more but it taking less time, or paying less and taking more time. Like, how do you find that balance for?
Yeah, I'll tell you if you tell me where you got your setup from.
I'm
just
well,
kidding,
I make videos, so I
streamer
had
or-
all this stuff.
You a streamer or podcaster? What is that?
It's for YouTube.
YouTube. What kind of YouTube videos?
Well, I'm a real estate broker and a contractor, so I'm doing kind of videos for both.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, cool, man. So the answer is kind of obvious, but I'll explain some context on how you do it. You have to do different financial models and see what nets you a better return. So, if you have one rehab cost and timeline, you have to compare that with the longer timeline, but keep in mind that time is can be one of the most expensive things on a flip, because it's not just comparing the construction costs, it's all the carrying costs, the carrying costs that you're incurring over the amount of time that you have that property. So for me, I think it really just comes down to numbers and compare it. However, I also am a fan of shorter, quicker deals. And then the way that we like to structure contracts with contractors is to have checkpoint payments with incentives if they're early. But yeah, I mean, Ragai, I don't. That one seems like a no-brainer to me. It's just whatever nets you better, and based on the numbers. What would you say?
Sorry, bro. I'm just trying to help Maddie right now. I wasn't even listening, dude, because you're you're so good at answering questions, dude.
No, Ezekiel, that's what I would do. And for what it's worth, we run different financial models on most of our deals to answer questions just like that. It's not just deal analysis where you run the numbers one way. Look in them multiple different ways and help you make your decision. For example, sometimes we'll run numbers on a wholesale, and then we'll run the numbers on what it would look like if we flip it. And if we're barely making more money on a flip, but it takes X amount of time longer, we'd rather just wholesale it. So, you can't lose the emotional intelligence, and there's a manual logical component to it. You have to weigh what's more important to you, but run different models and let the numbers speak to you. And then just make use your discernment and judgment based on that. because the last thing that I'll add is in a market like right now, we don't want to hold properties for a long time because it's changing so much, right? All the time. So we prefer shorter rehabs. So I
Right.
think that was helpful, was it?
Yeah, yeah. And with that, would you recommend going and purchasing properties through an ND or just going through yourself, like your personal,
Yeah.
just you?
Yeah. So we're obviously, you'd want to talk to a professional with that. We
Yeah.
do introduce you to professionals like for our community and things like that. But what I would say is we don't believe you'll ever want to flip houses in your personal name. And really, you know, when it comes to entities, there's two things. There's tax liability and asset protection. Those are the two sides to it. So you want to look at, you know, how will it affect you from a tax perspective, and then how will it protect you from an asset protection perspective. And I'll just give you kind of a hint on an easy way to think about this that we were taught. S Corp, the S stands for short term, and LLC, the L stands for long term. Just an easy way to remember it. So, for example, rental properties, we like to hold in LLCs. Flips and wholesales, we like to do out of an S Corp. So I hope that's helpful. I wouldn't recommend doing it in your personal name, but talk to a professional to see what type of entity might be right for your situation.
Yeah, that was
Right. Thank you.
a really good answer, Joshy. And let me just share with you guys, I'll just expand on that. A sole proprietor, the government loves you because you're taxed at the highest bracket. So if you're doing business in your personal name, you're a sole proprietor. But here's the way I always look at everything. I like to keep business separate from personal and vice versa. If I do business in my name and I'm flipping a house and I get into a dispute with a buyer or a seller or a contractor or a realtor or whatever it is, and they sue me, they're suing me. So they're going to try to come after any assets in my business. But then because I'm doing business in my name, they're also going to try to come after my personal house, my personal bank accounts, my car. Or if I get into a personal lawsuit with someone and I'm doing business in my name, they're going to name my business in the lawsuit and try to come after that. So I like to keep things separate.
Very cool. Thanks for that.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ezekiel. Appreciate the question. Better not see that in a YouTube video tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding. Is it Andriana? Andriana?
Hi, it's Andriana.
Well, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name, so go ahead.
That's okay. So I'm just going back to what you were talking about earlier, and leaving the mortgage in the seller's name and like offering a deposit. So my only concern is, which I kind of did this, and I was with my first investment property, and I went into it totally blind, and it was a really good learning experience. It still worked out, but if you sign a contract and you leave them a deposit or you give them a deposit and you leave the mortgage in their name, you do all the work, you invest all this money, you're getting ready to list it. Can they pull out?
No, absolutely not. I mean, you have to have this all in a contract up front. Raga, I stepped out when you went over the subject to today, but did you want to add what type of contract you want to have in place and how to structure that with the seller?
On a subject to?
She's asking about a subject to, yeah.
So a subject to is basically, so if you're using realtors, then realtors use something called zip forms, which is like the realtor contracts. So where I live in California, they're called the CAR contracts, California Association of Realtors. So there is a special subject to purchase and sale agreement that I would be using if there's realtors involved. If there isn't realtors involved and I'm dealing with a private seller, then I'm going to be using my private seller purchase and sale agreement. And then in the other section, there's just a section of other with blank line items. That's where I would draw out the terms and conditions of the subject to on that purchase and sale agreement. And then once they autograph and I autograph, we're in contract. So like if a seller tries to back out of contract, but you're still within all the parameters of the contract. You haven't broke anything that you said you were going to do in contract, right? Like, for example, you're still within your inspection contingencies. You put your earnest money deposit in when you said all those things. If a seller tries to back out, then they're out of contract. And that could actually lead to a legal dispute.
Right. But Rage, more specifically, she's referring to if you're in a subject to, and they try to, you're already rehabbing the house, you're halfway through the rehab, and they try to say, never mind. She's saying,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
man, I was just kidding. Sorry. No, they can't do that, because if you're already rehabbing, that means escrow is already closed. You're the new owner of title. They don't actually own it.
So that's the kicker right there, Andriana. The title switches to you. Okay.
Okay.
And then they take a lien position. The mortgage, the existing mortgage, which is really just a loan, another way to look at that so it's not confusing. The loan they currently have for the house, that stays in their name, but they transfer title and you have an agreement to reflect all of this. So it protects you both.
Got it. Yeah, we needed one of those the first time, but luckily I didn't get, screwed because it went into foreclosure, but we pulled out just in time. But yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you very much for answering my question.
No problem. Thanks for asking it. Taylor Warren. Taylor Warren, did you have a question? Okay, we'll come back to that one. Clay, awesome. You had your phone interview with Matt. Good stuff. Carbeth, we don't sell those tools. That's just part of the mentorship. Katrina is the next question. Go ahead.
Or Karina.
It has a T.
Does it?
Yeah. Katrina Rio Booyah. Booyah. Rio Booyah. Nobody wants to ask.
Now?
Oh, there you are. Hey.
Oh, sorry, my Zoom is freezing a lot. I apologize.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so my question is, I have a really good eye for design, but not really on the floor planning part of it when you look at a property and possibly renovate it, right? Do you teach that in the, in the program? Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely do. But let me just give you guys a couple of tips while you're here, because it's kind of funny. So first of all, you're a good contractor will be really up to date with this as well, especially if they're investor friendly, right? Because they should be familiar with this process. But here's a couple quick tips. First of all, you want to get good ideas from the existing flips around you. You could check out other flips, get some inspiration from them, the other houses that are listed if they've been renovated or they're up to date. But then here's something that Tarek taught me a long time ago, and it's so funny, but I don't know why it's so funny to me, but it's so true, and it's a great example of working smarter, not harder. There's companies, development companies, that spend millions and millions of dollars on research and development to figure out what's hot and what's trending and what designs are the most modern. So Tarek, you literally just used to go to different model homes of new construction and new neighborhoods and just check out everything that they're doing, because who's going to know what's modern and up to date and trending more than those companies that spend millions of dollars before they build. So when it comes to this, we don't really overthink it. We have our places, we get some inspiration, and then we rely on our contractor. Now, the only caveat to that is if it's a high-end flip, if it's a high-end, I'm talking like for us out here in our area code, that means above 7 figures. Once you get into the, over $1 million, but more so even actually higher than above 2 million. Now they're paying for quality and they're a little bit more particular. Sometimes we'll allocate a designer budget for that. However, that's not even what you asked. You asked if we teach that. Yes, we do. But I thought that would be helpful for you to know. There's not that much to it. It's just knowing where to get this information, kind of like you do with your contractor. You don't need to go learn construction. You just need to know a few things to know that you have the right person that knows what they're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And what about after the 6 months? Can we still go back to the program or utilize it? Like what happens? Because I'm really new to this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do not take away your access after 6 months. You just don't continue to get all of the new training, which is obvious, right? I mean, everything that you got during that 6 months stays with you, but the new weekly recordings that extend past your 6 months, obviously you don't continue to get those. So you'd have all of these resources that we already went over today. That all stays with you for as long as you want to use it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Carithra, or wait, but never mind. You said, but you can pay the tax at the end of the year, right? If you're an LLC. Well, yeah, I mean, taxes are due at the end of the year. Colleen is saying quarterly. When you pay quarterly, just so you guys know, and I'm not a CPA or a tax attorney or anything like that, but let me just share my understanding of it, and I deal with this pretty frequently. When you're paying taxes quarterly, that you're not actually filing taxes. You're making an estimated tax payment. It's different, right? The IRS asks that you make an estimated tax payment, and estimated is really just based on the prior year. So it's not always a great estimate, but that's kind of the best practices. People say, oh, divide it up from last year, divide it by 4 and make 4 quarterly payments or whatever. That's your own prerogative. That's a personal preference. Like I said earlier, I would rather be getting returns on my money throughout the year. And there is a penalty to do that, by the way, but it's so small and negligible that I don't care. But that's just me. Doesn't mean that it's for everybody. And you guys have to do what's best for you, because the other thing that's really important, and if anyone leaves this training thinking that the message was don't pay your taxes, then you definitely understood. Don't do that.
Josh told me to not pay my taxes.
That will get you in more trouble than almost anything else. That's not what we're saying. Shoot, I forgot the second part of that.
Penalties are small.
Penalties, no, I said penalties are small, but what I wanted to say was, I forget. Sorry,
opportunity costs. Were you about to go into opportunity costs? You'd rather have the money close to you and make money from it?
Yeah, I was saying that we get returns. I was talking about the penalties. Oh man, it was good too. I forgot. Whatever. I think you guys get that one. But the quarterly thing is really just, here's what I was going to say. Glad I remembered. I hate when that happens. I'm glad I remembered. What I was going to say is I have also seen people try to do things like this and get in a lot of trouble because they spent the money. That's something different. That's something very different. I pretty much know throughout the year how much in a ballpark I should be responsible to pay at the end of the year. And I keep it in a pretty liquid investment. Because I need to pay it at the end of the year. So it's very different. Don't overextend yourself or all of a sudden you can't pay your taxes. That's not what I'm saying at all. Okay. If you leave the mortgage in the seller's name and agree to deposit, what if you're done working on it and what to sell it? They decide no longer. Oh, we just covered that. Ivy, did you want to ask a question?
I did. Thank you so much. I'm actually from Canada. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. So I'm from Canada, and I know that there was a girl named Michelle because we kept trying to type it in the chat. How does this apply to us? Because I know 2 years ago, I guess Tarek and his team, I didn't meet him personally, but he came and held a conference. So I know you guys do offer it to Canadians, but how does all of this apply to us? Do you guys invest in Canadian properties as well, or would we have to purchase something in the US?
Yeah, I don't invest in Canada. The principles and the concepts of flipping houses are transferable, but in terms of the details and the nuances of your laws, I'm not exactly sure. Are you, Rye Guy?
No, again, like you said, the principles are the same. But the laws are a little different, or even like, for example, you guys don't have retirement, or you don't have 401ks or IRAs. You have different types of retirement plans and things like that. But again, it's all principles. Like I could take these same principles and go out of the country somewhere else, not just Canada, and do it. Because what are the principles? You got to learn how to generate leads. You got to learn how to analyze deals. It's always going to come down to the simple math. It's going to be the same numbers no matter where you are. How much can you buy it for? How much is your closing costs? How much are your holding costs? What's the ARV, right? And then ultimately you're going to hire contractors the same way. You're going to market for contractors the same way. You're going to structure contracts the same way. The contracts might be a little different based on being out of the country, but like Josh said, it's the same exact concepts.
Right.
But then so would it be advisable, like, would you still recommend, would Tarek take on Canadians on his team? Like, I know you're teaching the principles, but then how would you guide us and look at the contracts and the applications?
So
Ivy, if you wanted to, because we have coaches that are familiar with that, when you schedule an interview with us, we'll go ahead and talk you through that, even if it takes more of a personalized approach to look that up. But like Guy was saying, when you're talking about being on part of our team, you're still going to be able to do your own transactions, right? So
right.
Our team support is to help you do your deals. So it's really just going to come down to what the different laws are. It's the real estate laws themselves that we're trying to explain can be the difference, but this is pretty actually a quick thing that we can solve just offline. So let's chat about it a little bit later and we'll figure it out.
Okay, I just had another quick question. Approximately what time is this going to end?
Probably 10
like,
minutes.
Is it just, oh, so it's just the Q&A. Okay, I wasn't sure because I'm not rushing you guys. Like, I just don't want to miss anything, but I didn't know because I was expecting it to end at earlier. So
oh yeah,
I
know, Ivy, and we just like to over deliver. I mean, the training's technically over, right? If you guys have somewhere to be, obviously go ahead and do so. But we just wanted to over deliver since there's still questions. We care and we want to be able to answer them while we're all here. But yeah, there's no more presentations. It's just the Q&A, right?
Thank you. No, quick question too. Are you going to be emailing the recording to everyone?
We will. Yep.
Okay, excellent.
All right. Thank you, Ivy. Thanks so much. Orlando Pino, he said that, so the goal is to get under contract, but the contract still includes inspection contingencies, right? Yes, absolutely. That's correct. You still want to have that due diligence. That's when you could meet with your contractor, verify your numbers, do your due diligence, make sure there isn't any big issues or surprises that you were unaware about. That's when you would do that.
So the benefit, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
So the benefit to us as a buyer then is basically we're a cash buyer, we're removing appraisal contingency, no loan contingency, and shortening the contingency periods, correct?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And by the way, sometimes people with more attractive terms will get the deal even if they weren't the best price, right? So what you want to do, especially when you're newer, you want to have a healthy inspection period to have the time to finalize everything, have the right players, your contractors ready, verify the numbers. But, when you get some experience, like for example, Tarek buys houses, they can get a lot more aggressive if they need to. And they can literally say, hey, we'll do a 4-day inspection period, right? Okay. So that you could definitely get more aggressive there. But yeah, the other contingencies are loan and appraisal, and the loan contingency from a bank, I mean, sometimes that's like 1 or 2 months. It's kind of crazy. So those are the advantages. You're absolutely right.
One other quick question. You guys mentioned that we're taxed at a higher rate as sole proprietors, but isn't an S corporation just flow through? It's not taxed at the same rate, or is that lower?
It is a pass-through entity. Go ahead, Raga, you're shaking your head.
Well, no, so an LLC is a pass-through entity. An LLC can be taxed as an S corp. You can choose, but an S corp is made up of shareholders and employees. So if let's say you're employer and employee and you own an S corp, you would W-2 yourself, and you would also be a shareholder. So just for example, and this is something that we teach at a very high level. In fact, let me just pull this up real quick for them, Joshy. I'll just show you guys something real quick, because I think you guys will get a lot out of this if I can actually find it. Trying to find my
While he's pulling that up, did anybody notice that I changed? Got to go to the gym.
Dang dog. Okay, here we go. Boom. Hold on. Slideshow, presenter view. Okay. Can you guys see this?
Oh yeah, that's straight out of our asset protection training from the mentorship.
Oh yeah. So this is something we teach at a very high level. But so here's my S Corp down here. So my wife and I are employees of the S Corp. So we pay ourselves a W-2 salary, which also allows us to contribute to our self-directed 401ks. We can max them out. But because we also own the company in essence, we control it. We can match the max amount of match on the other side from the employer side, which for this year, we get to put a total of 119,000 in between employer and employee, which is all tax deductible, which saves us 40 grand on our tax bill right off the bat. But then see, my S Corp is owned 100% by our family living trust. So that means the trust owns 100% of the shares of the S Corporation, and we are W-2 employees. So let's say that, for example, let's say $100,000 going through an LLC. You got to pay state. If you live in a state that you have to pay state taxes, you have to pay federal, and you have to pay FICA, 15.3%. So 15.3% of $100,000 would be $15,300 you'd have to pay in FICA tax. If I have an S Corp or I have an LLC that's taxed as an S Corp, I have to pay myself a W-2 salary. So I can pay myself around 30% of the total income. So if that's 100 grand earned, I'd pay myself 30,000 in salary, and the remaining balance of 70,000 would be a distribution. Well, here's the tax strategy of an S Corp. The IRS says you have to pay FICA tax on 30,000 on the salary, but you pay zero FICA on the distribution of 70. So with an LLC, I actually pay $15,300 in FICA tax on 100,000 earned. But if I'm taxed as an S Corp, I'm only paying FICA on the salary. So I only pay $4,590 in FICA tax, which means by being taxed as an S Corp, I'm actually saving $10,710 in FICA tax.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
There's your money back.
I thought it'd be better if I showed it to you that way. Does that make sense?
It makes great sense. I got a lot of work to do on Monday.
Sometimes people realize, you know what, it's time to upgrade my accountant. Nothing personal, but they never told me about S Corp or any of that stuff. And it's not necessarily their job to tell you, but you also would hope you're working with people that if they know ways that you can save taxes, that they would share that with you.
Well, that's one of the cool things too, Rye Guy. And it's such a great example of like the professionals that we work with and our homeschooled students in the mentorship get to work with and meet as well. The reason we work with them and they're so great at what they do is because there's really two sides to this business, the asset protection stuff we're talking about, and entity structure and formation. Like I said earlier, there's tax liability and there's asset protection. But the interesting thing is that's two different people. That's a tax professional and an attorney. And so the reason that a lot of people don't really get this full, I guess, information is because they either have an attorney they work with to set up their entities, and then they, or they just have a tax person to help them with their taxes. So it's really important that those meet in one place and that there's a communication channel established between the two. that would probably save you a lot of money right there. It has for me at least.
444. It's a great number.
It is a good number. Okay, we'll do a few more here. Gilbert Ducey.
Yes, hold on. I did have a question regarding as far as land flips. I know that was another that has another opportunity up here where there are a lot of properties that are for sale that have been tax foreclosed. So my question is though, is I right now do not have much in the way of personal funding to be able to put towards it. So
yeah,
and just wondering, man, I want to be able to do it, but I'm trying to figure out. I'm kind of thinking that might be a good place to start to be able to kind of at least build a little, not really a nest egg, but kind of like a piece so that I can start putting more towards when I start doing the flipping at the end. So I'm just trying to figure out a good path on how to go about doing that.
Well, the hard part is these types of like hard money lenders, it's asset-based lending, and it's against the collateral. And if there's not like a structure on the land, then a lot of them don't lend on it, as I've recently learned. I think actually Rye Guys, you shared that with me. But that being said, I don't like to talk about things I don't know about, and I know very little about land. So Rye Guy, did you have an answer for him?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, you're just a good student, Josh. I'm just sitting back here going, dude, Josh knows the answers to all this stuff. It's pretty awesome. So like Josh said, that, you know, it's the same thing when you depreciate an asset. You can depreciate the actual structure asset value, but not the land value, because the land isn't necessarily considered an asset. A hard money lender, in a worst case scenario, if you can't perform and they take back the property and you bought it under value, at least they can resell it and get their money back out of it. But on a piece of land, they don't want to have to take it over, build it, do all that stuff. So typically they're not going to lend you in that scenario unless you have a track record. Then it's different. And just so you guys know, whatever a hard money lender says no to, everything's negotiable, especially if you have a track record, right? You can go get construction loans from a bank. So it's a little harder to get, but yeah, land's just a tougher deal to do. And then also too, it's the timelines. You got to make sure the timelines can be huge. Like it can take you from raw land to being ready to sell can take you 3 or 4 years. So you got to budget all those numbers in there.
Okay. So if I am wanting to, well, I know I'm definitely wanting to go. I just signed up for your course and everything, so I'm just waiting to hear back from that. Oh shoot, I just had the same thing that he had earlier. I forgot where I was going with.
Hey, Rag Guy, real quick. I'm getting up by the team. So I got to handle a bunch of stuff. Guys, thank you so much today. It's awesome to see how many people are serious about investing their time and making a difference and taking action. So I know there's a lot of you that I'm going to be getting to know personally, and I'm super excited. We love building our little community. Listen, for someone like us who works as much as we do because we genuinely enjoy it, we don't have a lot of time for new relationships outside of what we do. So the only way we really make new friends is if you're doing what we're doing with us. So that's my kind of circle of friends, and that's my sphere of influence. I appreciate all of you guys on here, and I look forward to getting to know a lot of you guys very soon. That being said, I think Rye Guy's hanging out for a little bit longer, so I'll leave this to you guys. Talk to you all soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
What was that last question, Gilbert?
I have to think on it for a second because I had the same thing you had earlier. I forgot where I was going with that.
Okay.
So circle back in a minute.
All right, let's see. Christian, do you want to mute yourself and ask a question?
Hello.
Hi.
I have a question. What are your thoughts about flipping mobile homes? Do you guys think it's a great way to start flipping since they are smaller?
So it's not a matter of because it's smaller or it's a great way to do it. Everything's going to come down to the simple math. Do the numbers work? And are based on the numbers working, it's going to be ARV minus repair cost minus holding cost minus closing costs, and that's going to equal your profit. And then the ARV is going to be based on comps, comparable properties. So you'd have to base that on what are the comps. If you're looking at a mobile home and you're looking at the ARV, are there other mobile homes in that park, in essence, that support those numbers? And if the numbers make sense, the simple math of the numbers makes sense, yeah, you should do it. Because it's all going to come down to the numbers. Even like condos, one of our coaches, Jen, she has like a training that she does for our students. It's called 5-day flip. She can get in and out of a condo in 5 days. Again, it's just smaller, right? So yeah, it's all going to come down to the numbers. That's basically it.
Thank you so much for your time.
Of course. Let's see. Carbeth, did you have another question? What was the equation formula again? So it's basically just ARV after repair value minus repair cost minus holding cost minus closing cost equals profit. And if it's a cosmetic rehab, the profit should be a minimum of 10% of the total money invested, even if you didn't invest any money. What's the total amount needed to do the deal? The profit, if it's cosmetic rehab, should be at least 10% of that minimum. And that's basically it, guys. That is basically it. So let's go ahead and wrap this up, guys. It's almost 5 o'clock where I live. I've been actually fasting now for 22 hours. So I'm going to go get some food in me. And I know for some of you, it's already 8 o'clock where you're located. I know it's getting late. Some of your family members are like, what the heck happened? You've been gone all Saturday. But was this good, guys? Did you guys get some value out of this? I mean, seriously, did you get more value than you would have expected to get for $97? Right? I mean, that's pretty powerful. And that's what we were telling you on the Tuesday's training. In my opinion, this is probably the best way to invest $100 this year. It's hard to get this much value, in my opinion, over $100. If you haven't turned in your application, go to tarixapplication.com, get your application turned in. Our team member will reach out to you. We'll go through an interview process and we'll kind of take it from there. But the students that we're going to start working with, we get started this upcoming week. So it's really, really powerful. And basically what happens is we pass you off to our student success concierges. They're going to teach you how to get the best out of this program, get the biggest ROI. They're going to teach you all the assets, what's the purpose of them, how to use them. And then from there, we pass you off to your one-on-one coach and we get the process started, getting you into all of the curriculum. So it was an absolute pleasure, my friends. It was good to see all your beautiful faces. I wish you guys the best of luck. Nothing but the best, with or without us. Maybe I'll be seeing a lot of you. I won't be seeing some of you, but either way, I wish you the best wealth, the best health, and ultimately just keep flowing. Like we said before at the beginning of the day, surrender to the flow. Try to realize when you're in resistance and maybe just try to turn that boat around and go downstream. There's certain scenarios where other people will trigger you, and ultimately it's one of those things where you got to go, you know what? I'm not going to get resistance about this right now because they're not going to change. The only thing they can change is me and how I'm looking at this scenario, and just do your best to turn the boat around, surrender to the flow, try to live with zero resistance. And that's the flow state. That's where we get the downloads. That's where we get all the good things coming to us that we deserve. We just got to open the doors for it. So love all you guys. Keep crushing it, and we will see you guys soon. Peace.